Welcome everyone to the 9th round of the 2013 GP4 Offline Championship. I'm your commentator for today, George Eric, and welcome to the German Grand Prix at the infamous Nürburgring circuit, also known as the Nordschleife as well. But obviously, unfortunately, we are not going to be using the Nordschleife today. We'll be using the Nürburgring normal layout. So the driver standings after the last race, which was won comfortably in the end by Joseph Willers as he moved up to fourth, is that Wade Cooper and Mikkel Scout are both on the same number of points, 107 points, going into this round, and we are almost at the halfway point of the season. Round 9 will be taking place at Nürburgring. The last race held in 2011, as it wasn't held in 2012 due to the shareholding agreement with them and Hockenheim. But we will go and have a look around the track. So as we head around the first section of the course, as we come into turn 5, this is a battle between Felix Sonntag, who won the first race, who won his race in 2007, I should say, here at the Nürburgring. And this was his first home win of his career. As we now look down the rest of the lap, heading up, down over the curb and heading towards turn 6, where in 2009, I believe it was, and yes it was, in 2009, Adam Wolf had this infamous crash where he flew into the air like an Air Asia flight and went into the wall. As we head now down, oh no, there won't be more of the lap, I guess. I thought there'd be more, but I guess not. But anyway, the tyres we'll be using for this will be the super soft tyres, obviously the wets and the inters if needed, and no surprise, Joseph Willers getting the driver of the day for winning by around about 40 seconds, nearly a minute, a bit like Lewis Hamilton in 2008. But anyway, here is the starting grid for the German Grand Prix, with Mikkel Scout on pole position ahead of Will Neller in second place for Lotus. On the second row of the grid is Jamie Kissing, followed by Florian Volker and Red Bull. On the third row of the grid is Robert Inescu and Wade Cooper for Lotus and Ferrari respectively. On row 4 is the winner last time out, Joseph Willers, and George Roque for Mercedes. On row 5 is Oliver Glazebrook and Ricky Hoxie for Sauber and Force India. On row 6 is Alex Southgate, followed by Franco Gamba for Toro Rosso, and Southgate for McLaren. 13th place is William Duncan, followed by Quiroz and De Rossi in 14th position. Onto the 8th row of the grid, it's David Greenwood, and good qualifying from him with Armand Carr in 16th place. Onto row 9 is Vedran Vedrina, not a great qualifying from him in the McLaren, with Rick Yan in 18th place. 19th place is Roland Moitian, followed by Roman Quaggi in 20th on row 10. And on the final row of the grid, it is Lucas Levi and Zachary Fitzwater from Russia and Caterham. So that is the grid for the German Grand Prix, and now we are set to take a look at what the weather will be like. And as you can see, it will be another bone dry race here at the Nürburgring, so this should be very fascinating to see how this race pans out. So we've seen the weather, we've seen the grid, and now let's get ready to race. Let's go to the grid in 3, 2, 1. Here we are. We're now on the grid for the German Grand Prix, 60 laps around this track. The lights are about to come on. Now 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, and now we have 5 lights. It's a fairly long hold, and we're underway for the German Grand Prix, and Mikkel Scout's got a poor start. Wilner's already taken the lead off the jump on the line, and Neller looks set to take the lead as they head into the first corner. And Neller's in the lead. Oh, Izzy Mackenzie's on the inside, and Jay Mackenzie's going to take the lead from Will Neller. Mikkel Scout drops down to third as they head around turn 1. What a start once again by the Mercedes for a second week running. Following last time out, George Roque took the lead from third place, and now Jay Mackenzie's done the same thing here at the Nürburgring. As we look around the rest of the order, David Greenwood moved up to 12th. He's made a great start in the Marussia. As we look down the rest of the field, Rella Moitin's dropped all the way down to the last, so he's made a poor start. But Jay Mackenzie, what a start from him. He takes the lead from Will Neller in second place. So Neller hasn't really lost out in the air, but Gal, who's got a lot of fuel compared to the rest of them, as now Robert Inescu is going to go to his inside, although Gal's forcing him out and not letting him through. Excuse me. And now Inescu is right behind Gal as they come through the long right-hander, heading up towards the fast left-right, and Inescu is right behind here as they come through the left-right, and now they're heading towards the left-hander before the back straight. Inescu still trying to make a move, he can't quite do it there. He's now right behind Mikkel Scout, coming on to the back straight, heading towards the chicane. He's right behind him, he's got Joseph Willers for company as well. Inescu tries to get on the inside, but needs to be careful because he's got Joseph Willers behind him. He could make a move coming into the chicane. Inescu is going to make it stick, and no, Gal keeps the inside, coming over the very bouncy curve. Inescu goes wide there, and Joseph Willers nearly gets his way through. Now Wade Cooper's just behind him, and so is Florian Volker for Red Bull. As we now head on towards lap 3 as we're on board, as we're looking at the Ferrari of Joseph Willis, who's trying to get past Ionescu going into the first corner, and he's on the inside, and he almost somehow doesn't go into the Red Bull of Gal ahead of him. How close was that? That was ridiculously close. We need to have a look at it again, as Willis was trying to make a move on Ionescu down the inside, and he didn't make it. Way too late, and wow, let's have a look at that in slow motion. That is close to say the least. My God, how Joseph Willis has got away with that, I don't know. He even goes over the curb as well, gets a little bit of air for his troubles, and unfortunately doesn't get the place off Ionescu after all of that. Now Waze Cooper's also right behind, and so is the McLaren, I think that is. I know that's the other Red Bull, I should say, of Florian Volker, who's dropped down a few positions. And we're on looking at George Roque, who is running in P9, trying to get past Oliver Glazebrook, P8 coming into the first corner, and he goes around the turn. He goes a bit wide, and he does a massive jump over the curb, gets way out of shape there, and loses 2 positions technically in the process. So he drops down behind Glazebrook. You can see the amount of air that he gets over the curb there, coming off the exit at turn 1. That lifts him off the track, I should say. And he loses another place to De Rosa and to Gamba in front of him. And so he's dropped down to 11th. That's not the start that George Roque would have wanted compared to last week at Silverstone. And now we're looking at the battle for 8 places. De Rosa is now right behind his teammate Glazebrook. Franco Gamba just behind him. Roque also trying to recover positions. And De Rosa is going to attack Glazebrook coming down the front straight. And I think Roque may try and attack Gamba coming into the first corner, but I don't think he's quite close enough. De Rosa's on the inside. And does he make it stick? The answer is yes, he does. He gets past Glazebrook for P8. He's got quite a light fuel load, this De Rosa, so it's probably why he's quite quick so far this race. He started down, I think it was in 14th place. As now we're looking at the battle for P3, as now Robbie Ionescu is on the inside of Nicolas Gal, coming down the straight into turn 1, into the right-hander. Ionescu's on the inside, and then there's contact, and Ionescu manages to just about save it, but he loses the place back to Gal, and Joseph Willis can't quite get past him there, so we're going to have another look at that again on board of Nicolas Gal's point of view. And let's have a look. So Ionescu's already passed him, and then Gal decided to, he certainly wasn't pleased about that, to say the least, and just bumps Ionescu out the way, coming into turn 1, and he gets through, and Joseph Willis can't quite pass as well to get into P4. But that's a fascinating battle going on for P3, but obviously the thing is, Gal has got a very heavy fuel load. He looks to be doing the 1 stop compared to everyone else who's going to be doing either a 2 or 3. Now looking once again at the battle for P3. I mean, P1 and 2, Mackenzie and Noah are well away from this, as Gal's been holding them up for quite a few laps now. Ionescu's on the inside, going into turn 1. Is he going to make it? Is he going to make it stick this time? The answer is yes. And Gal's made contact. He's spun, and Willis has hit him, and so is Kuma behind, and so is Volker. And incredibly, 4 title rivals are out in the space of a corner. Willis is out, Kuma is out, Gal is out, and Ionescu is out. All in one corner. Oh my goodness, and once again that is a poor mistake, I have to say, from Nicolas Gal. That was definitely his doing by going into the back of Ionescu. But Willis, Kuba, Ionescu and Gal are all out of this race. That is going to hand the initiative to, I believe, Jay Mackenzie, who get himself back in the title fight here. And Gal's car is very badly damaged, smoke coming out of it and all. But we need to have a look at, from all the points of view, of what happened there, because that was unbelievable. 4 title rivals out on the spot in 1 corner, and there's your confirmation. Let's have a look at it again on board from Nicolas Gal's point of view. So he was being passed by Ionescu, and the exact same thing that he did a lap ago happened again. Went into the back of him, but this time Gal lost it right in front of Willows. Ionescu unfortunately just got caught up in that. Let's go on board with Waze Kuba as he came into the first corner. So there was the contact. Gal went around. Ionescu had almost saved it, but then he was there, and then Kuba unfortunately went into Willows, and Volker got involved as well. But Volker somehow got absolutely no damage from that, and Ionescu had still got all 4 wheels on his wagon until he went into the Ferrari there, and that is why he retired, and that is him out of the Grand Prix. Oh my goodness me, so I don't know how Volker has managed to get away with no damage from that. But amazingly, Kurosima De Rosa has moved up into 4th place after all of this. That is some start of the race that he's had, and now he's actually attacking Volker for P3, although it's probably because he has a very light fuel load. And he's now on the inside of Volker and coming into the first corner, and he takes third position. What a start by Kirosima de Rosa. As we're now coming around looking into the final corner. We're looking at Ricky Parkinson, who's right behind David Greenwood in the Virgin as they come down the back straight in the first corner. Greenwood's not going to make it easy, but Parkinson's on the inside, and he's going to move up into P11. Gets the move done, and he's now just one place off the point. He's now going to get past veteran Vedrina for 10th position, who's not that far in front of him, so he can easily catch him up. And into the pits comes De Rosa after that light fuel propelled him all the way up to P4, or to actually P3, having overtaken Volker. But it's certainly been a great first stint for De Rosa. Everything has gone pretty well for him, to say the least, as he now changes all 4 tyres. He's got 19 litres of fuel on his car, so let's see. It will be very interesting to see where he comes out on track, if he comes out in traffic or not, because that could harm his race. But I imagine he'll still have the pace on low fuel, because he did certainly in the first stint, so let's see if it works in the second stint. So he comes out of the pits into the heavens. He comes up down in P14. He comes up behind Roland Moitin. So he comes out ahead of Roman Quag. Now here we are looking at George Roque, who's attacking Franco Gamba for P5, coming down the back straight. He's got obviously Oliver Glazer in front of him. Roque is on the inside of Gamba, coming into the hairpin, and there's contact, and Roque's around. He spins right in front of Gamba, and Southgate gets involved as well, but he gets away without any damage. But Roque has dropped quite a few positions from that. And that is going to cost Roque dearly coming into the race. So he tried to make a move on the inside of Gamba. There's a tight angle going into the turn. It just didn't work out for him. And Gamba got hit there by, I believe that was Alex Southgate, and it was. And Southgate was lucky that he got away with no damage from that. As there was a contact, it was pretty hefty as well. So Southgate, again, fortunately, got away without any damage. So there's Vedrina's in there, now Duncan as well. They come down, and the Mauricio there, Greenwood, almost going into the side of Roque's car there, going into the first corner. And I think the car behind, I think De Rosa actually overtook Greenwood and overtook Moitin, I should say, under yellow flags there. And there was the first one. And he was on the inside, and yes, you can see he was on his inside, and he was alongside him as the yellow flag goes out. So De Rosa may get into some trouble for that, for overtaking under yellow flags there. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets a penalty for that. We'll find out shortly from the stewards. And obviously Greenwood went wide at the first corner, so that was accidental, but the Moitin overtake was not. So he'll imagine I'll get a penalty for that as Fitzwater comes into the pits, and I believe he's had a change of front wing, so something happened to him. And let's have a look. So on board with Fitzwater, who's in 17th position, and he's got Armand Carr behind him, and he goes wide, and there was contact there, and Fitzwater goes way over the curb there and loses his front wing in that battle with Carr. Really just not enough room for the two to go around the chicane there. It is quite a tight chicane, to say the least. And there was the contact, and Fitzwater unfortunately had nowhere to go and bounced way high over the curves. He was lucky the car didn't tip over, to be honest. But fortunately he was right near the pits, but he still had a hell load of fuel to go. So let's see what the team decided to do or not. And there's a reason why he was held back in the pits, because Rick Yan had actually just pitted on the same laps, and Fitzwater is going to be held up, so it's not going to help his weight, not going to help his race one little bit. And so that's the team finally actually comes out for him at last, but it's going to cost him dearly. Fitzwater, he's one of the only drivers who scored any points. It hasn't gone his way so far this season. They're going to have to hope for the next race will get him some luck, because I don't really see him getting any points out of this race so far. Now here we are on board looking with veteran Vedrina, who's right behind the Toro Rosso of Gamba. Will he fare better at passing him than Roque did? Coming into turn one, Vedrina's going alongside Gamba, the Italian, coming into the first corner. Is he going to make it stick side by side? And has he got it done? And the answer is yes, he does. So he's up into P6, although he will also be pitting this lap. But it's still a good move by the Croatian driver nonetheless. We now come through the long left and then through the right hand, who's now on board with Zachary Fitzwater, who is coming through in 18th position. He's currently in last place pretty much. Now coming into the right hand, and he goes wide, and he loses a bit of front wing again, and Zachary Fitzwater is going to have to pit again. That's a pretty bad mistake by the Australian driver there. with the left-hander just goes wide, and there goes the bit of his front wing, and Fitzroy is now going to have to go to the pits again. So his race is effectively ruined. He may as well retire the car, to be honest. There isn't really any point of him getting anything out of this race, but Fitzroy is now going to have to pit for a new front wing, or he has done anyway, so it's a disaster for the Australian driver, as now veteran Vedrina comes in for his first stop of the race on lap 14 out of 60, so we're about a quarter of the way to the finish. Vedrina comes into his pit box, and let's see how much fuel they put in and how quick the stop is. So now up to 17 litres, so I guess he'll be doing a 3-stop. 17 laps, that's about lap 30-ish. So yeah, I imagine he'll probably be doing a 3-stop unless it's a long stint for the final bit of the race. Is now looking at De Rossa, who's right behind William Duncan in the Toro Rosso, coming down the front straight. So now, as it's now side by side, and De Rossa is going to make it the stick for P7 into the first corner, and the answer is no, he can't quite. Oh no, wait, no, he does. Gamba goes Duncan, I should say, goes a little bit wide, and that hands the position to the Polish driver, who now makes his way up into P6. So now looking at a battle down the field. This is between Vedrina and Amar Kar, and Vedrina trying to make a move on the inside, and he does. It's side by side. Is he going to quite make the move stick? Ooh, very nearly contact there, and Car's now going to be overtaken by Rick Yan, who goes past him there. That was very, very close. I was lucky that there wasn't any contact there between the two. So it was side by side there, and there was good racing around the right-hander, and Car to go onto the curve there to avoid any contact, and Rick Yan managed to go past him, and Roke, who's right behind him, must have obviously made a stop, is now going to have to try and overtake. And looking at Vedrina, who's coming through onto the back straight. Because we're now looking at De Rossa, who's trying to pass his teammate Oliver Glazebrook, coming down the back straight. Is he quite alongside him? I don't think he is, although is he still going to make the move into the first corner? And the answer is yes. And De Rossa makes the move stick into P4, so it's looking pretty good. He's certainly going to get, looks like a P4 right now. His pace is really good on the low fuel load, so it's looking very good for him. And oh, there's Southgate, who's gone off at the chicane. And oh, there's a car around, and that's Oliver Glazebrook, who spun. And it looks like there was contact between the two coming into the chicane. Southgate was trying to make a move on him. He was, I suppose, Glazebrook covered the line really, and Southgate spun, and Glazebrook, oh my word. And how did Glazebrook not roll the car there? That is so fortunate. My goodness. How lucky was Oliver Glazebrook there? He's still lucky that he didn't get any damage from that also. So now he's going to drop a few positions, but fortunately he's not going to have to pit again. But he's going to lose quite a few. Southgate, who rejoins just behind David Greenwood in the Marussia, and Southgate just goes past the stricken car of Glazebrook. There has to wait for another car, or another couple I should say, to go past him. And he's still having to wait for more to go past him, and now he drops all the way down to P17, and he finally rejoins down in P17. That's second to last place ahead of Zachary Fitzwater. And if we're looking at George Roke, who's trying to attack Amar Kar coming down the front straight. He's going to make a move into turn 1, going at 320 km an hour on the slipstream. He's not going to quite make it stick here. He's going to be right behind him. He's also right behind Lucas Levi in front. Florian Volker comes up the pits and does indeed come out ahead of De Rossa. So despite De Rossa's good pace, it's not quite enough for him to stay ahead. Oh, and there's contact, and Roke hits Car coming into the chicane. And Roke does indeed get the move done, but it's not exactly the way he probably would have wanted to do it. And he moves up into P15. As there was a car in the pit there, I can't see who it was. It was, as we look at Rick Yan, who's trying to attack Roman Quagg into turn 1. And he makes a second. It was actually David Greenwood who was in the pits, as you can see on the bottom of your screen. As they're coming now down through turn 2. So he's got past car. Greenwood coming up the pits. 6.6 second stop. Will Neller's coming in for, I believe, his first stop of the race. He and Mackenzie are so far clear of everyone else right now. Neller's hasn't exactly been up with Mackenzie, but he's certainly looking a pretty good shoe-in for second place right now. If he can keep it on the road. As they come out of his pit stall, it was a 5.3 second stop, I should say. 28 laps of fuel, so he'll be pitting one more time before the end of the race. He comes out, and I believe he'll come out still in second. And the answer is yes, he does. So it proves the pace, and Mackenzie and Neller out front, while Gao had really held up the guys, and obviously involving Volker in that incident on lap 7. As Ricky Hopkins comes out of the pits, 6 second stop it is. Comes out just behind Oliver Glazebrook in the Sauber. We're now looking at Renault Motor. No, Franco Gamba's out. And Franco Gamba, who is having such a good race, is out of the Grand Prix. And what has happened to him coming into the chicane? And oh dear me, that's not what Franco wanted at all. And I'll be very, very disappointed with that. So we need to have a look at the replay to see what has happened to him coming out the chicane. This car gets pushed away. I think as we're gonna go on board, and oh no, it was his teammate William Duncan, was it, that had a collision with him? And yes, Duncan went right into the back of him, and Gamba went over the curves, and it damaged his car very severely. Well, enough that he got rid of his wing and his wheel, and there it went. And oh dear me, there's going to be some words with Franz Tost after this race, and William Duncan, who still is in the race, but he's certainly not going to have a very happy bunny in Franco Gamba after the race in the briefing. Now looking at George Roque, who's alongside the version of Lucas Levi coming into the first corner, and he makes the move stick up into P11. As we're now looking at the race leader, Jay McKenzie, coming in for his first stop of the Grand Prix. Comes into the pit, so he went on a fairly long stint on that set of tyres, but fortunately he had good enough pace to go with it, to say the least. 20 laps of fuel in the car, so that will be a 2-stop. As he comes out the pit, so he comes up behind Will Nella. And let's see, he comes up still in P2, so Nella leads, but McKenzie will be hunting him down, I imagine. So it will be a battle for the win between, looks like, Will Nella and Jay McKenzie right now. No one else is really close to them at all, to be honest, so this should be very, very interesting to see. As Nella now comes around the first section of the lap. McKenzie, who has got less fuel than him, so he'll be pitting before Nella does. So it'll be interesting to see the pace between the two. So at the moment, Will Nella leads, I suppose to say a net lead, out on track, but we'll see what happens in the next 20 laps or so to see who is going to win this race. As now William Duncan comes in for his pit stop, and there was another car behind him as well that's coming in. That was Roland Moitin, who's coming in for his first stop of the race. And William Duncan comes in, and let's see how quick his stop will be. He probably won't want to look at pit boards or anything like that, or any of the race engineers at all after what happened. But anyway, Roland Moitin comes out of his pits at the 5.1, and he actually jumps Duncan in the stops there, so Moitin comes out ahead of Duncan there, so it's not worked out particularly well for William Duncan there. He comes out, Moitin in 11th, just behind Lucas Levi, and all right in the middle of Lucas Levi and Ricky Hartzane in the Sauber there. So just right deep in traffic, and Duncan's come up behind both Hartzane and Armand Carr, so he's behind both Force Indians, which won't help him at all. Roland Moitin coming on to the front straight, and he's right behind Lucas Levi in the version, and he's now coming alongside him, heading down the front straight, and surely he's going to have this move done into the first corner, and he's on the inside, and he makes it stick. As Jay McKenzie sets the fastest lap of the race, showing his pace, but he's got, look at all this traffic he's going to have in front of him, as Will Nellis is in the middle, trying to get through it all. We're now looking at Roland Moitin, who's coming down behind his teammate Romain Quag, the Frenchman. So heading towards the first corner. There's a car coming out the pits as well. Oh, that could have been very nasty there, but Moitin goes a little bit wide, and he somehow avoids contact, but Southgate manages to sneak his way through both there after the first corner. That was very scary indeed. Now Southgate came right out of the pits almost exactly the wrong time, and Southgate had to move out the way there to avoid the two, as Moitin was making a move. Moitin went way too deep into turn 1, and he got a terribly bad run, and Southgate managed to get past both Quag and him. Let's go on board with I should say, it's Vedrina, I should say. And as you can see, there was Moitin going wide. He just went wide there, and look how close it was between Vedrina and Quag, and also between Vedrina and Moitin, but Vedrina managed to get through both, so that was a lucky escape there for the Croatian driver. And he goes up into P8, and Rick Yan, who's running in P6 in this race, set to come in for his first pit stop of the race. I think it's the first. Yeah, it is the first. At exactly the halfway point, 30 out of 60 laps. 50% done, now 50 more percent left to go. And he now comes into pits. He's had obviously a lot better race than his teammate Zachary Fitzwater has. He comes in for his pit stop 18 laps of fuel, so he'll be pitting once more. I thought he might try and go to the end, but he will pit once more before the end of the race, as Rick Yan comes out of the pits. As we're looking at Southgate, who himself is coming out the pits in P12. He's going to come up behind Lucas Levi, and Rick Yan was right there, and Rick Yan, and he nearly goes into Southgate, who himself nearly goes into the Force India there of Omar Khan. You can see they were coming out the pits. Yan was on the inside of the car, and then did he actually make contact with Southgate? I think he may have done. And yes, he did. He did make contact there, right there with Southgate, which forced him to go a bit wide. And Yan almost made contact with Southgate. How he didn't make contact with Omar Khan there, I honestly have no idea. Need to have a look at that again. So Khan is being overtaken by Yan there, and look at that. Yan comes absolutely bursting through, and Khan manages to just about squeeze his way through both there, up into P12, and Southgate down to P13. As here is the battle for the lead of the race between Jay McKenzie and Will Neller. So McKenzie's pace, he's clearly closed down Neller after the stop. There's a reason why McKenzie was leading. Neller's not exactly going to give it up easy. He's now trying to hold it, but McKenzie forced his way down through the inside, and he's now going to make the move for P1, and he takes the lead of the German Grand Prix. Excuse me. We're going to have a look at that again. Neller did defend, but McKenzie was already on the inside. He was really going for it, and he took the lead of the race on lap 34. That could be a race-defining moment as they're coming up to some more traffic ahead of them. As now George Roque comes in for a pit stop for Mercedes. It's not really been a great race for him compared to his teammate McKenzie. He's just not really had the rub of the green this season compared to his teammate McKenzie. So it'll be interesting to see how quick the stop is and where he comes out actually. He's dropped down to P7. The pit stop will be, as he will be going to the end. He's going to come out in P12. He's going to come up behind Rick Yan in the catering, who himself is trying to attack Roman Quagg in front of him. So it's not particularly worked out particularly well for George Roque. As now Yan is on the inside of Quagg coming into turn 1. Is he going to make it stick? He does, and Roque is on the inside, and he makes it past Quagg as well into P11. Or does he? He's around the outside of Quagg. Is he going to get it done? And yes, he is. So he's up into P11. Now he's got Rick Yan to overtake to get himself into the points. So now looking at William Duncan, who's attacking Roland Moichin for 6th place, coming down the front straight, and he's now alongside him, and he overtakes him into the first corner. Does he? Yes, he does. He gets it done. Goes a little bit wide. He doesn't get the greatest run out the corner, but he gets it done. He's now up into P6. That was Will Neller in front of him. So McKenzie and Neller have already lapped up to the top 6. That's pretty impressive to say the least. But McKenzie's got a comfortable lead over Will Neller right now. Obviously, they've still got both one more stop to go. But it's looking pretty good for Jay McKenzie, I have to say. It's looking good for Will Neller for at least a second, but he probably would want the win. As Omar Khan making a move on David Greenwood coming into the first corner, and he makes it down up to P13. And now he's up into the 30th place, still 3 places off the points, Greenwood down to 14th. We're now looking at Jay McKenzie, who's coming in for his final stop of the Grand Prix. He's coming into the pits, and let's see how quick this stop will be and what his pace is like compared to that of Will Neller. He was 10 seconds ahead of him, so wow, McKenzie really did have some pace on that car to say the least. So Neller goes past him into the lead for the time being anyway, because obviously Neller will be pitting for the end. 4.6 second stop, that's pretty quick from Mercedes. So he comes out in P2, and I believe he'll stay in P2 because I think Volker is way too far away from him, and he comes now back out onto the track, and he is comfortably in P2. So it's going to be interesting to see if Will Neller is going to be able to do anything about the pace of Jay McKenzie. As now Florian Volker comes in for his final stop of the race in 3rd. I don't know the gap between him and De Rossa is 20 seconds actually, so I think Volker will be close. He'll either come out just ahead or just behind of De Rossa, but De Rossa will have to pit one more time, so it's looking pretty good for Volker to get the podium. But it's been a very impressive race by De Rossa to say the least. As Volker comes in for his stop, 5.2, he'll be going to the end. Comes out of the pits, and I imagine he'll probably come out just behind De Rossa. And yep, he's gone across the line, and he comes out of the pits, and there goes De Rossa. So he actually comes out just behind De Rossa, but he'll have to pit one more time for the end anyway. So Volker doesn't really need to worry about attacking him. He just needs to probably let him go. And actually, De Rossa will in fact be pitting this lap, so Volker won't have to worry about that, as there's a yellow flag out, and Rick Yan is out the race. And Duncan's gone wide. And there's a Mercedes. And George Roque is out as well. And George Roque and Rick Yan have, it looks like, collided with each other, coming down in a hairpin. And they are out of this race. And they're going to get no points. It's not been a great... It's been a pretty horrible weekend for George Roque. And he's in 10th place trying to attack Rick Yan. For 9th coming into the hairpin. And Roque went right into the side of Yan, who went wide. Then he went across Roque. And they collided there. And Yan did defend. Roque went into the back of him there. And Yan obviously clearly was not pleased with that in the slightest. And I mean, probably, maybe, did he really need to go across Roque? I guess he didn't, but I don't really know. I think they were both really to blame for that incident. I mean, we're interested to see what you guys think of that one. As William Duncan come around, he went wide. And there's the reason why. And William Duncan ran into the debris from the crash. And now he's going to have to pit again. So that might hand a point to Oliver Glazebrook in the Sauber after that spin he had at the chicane and somehow not clicking the car. Looks like he might get himself some points out of this race after all. That's pretty lucky, I have to say the least. He does get it, but I think it could hand the initiative to him. Madrina now attacking Southgate, his teammate, coming into turn 1. Southgate goes a bit wide over the curbs. He can't quite make it stick. Southgate is behind Ripley Hartazane in the Sauber. They're now coming down into turn 3 and now through into turn 4 as they come now down heading towards turn 5, as we're now looking at Madrina, who's right behind Southgate, coming through the left-hander, now through the right, heading towards the hairpin. Madrina right behind. Is he going to make the move stick coming into the hairpin? He's right behind Southgate. He's got the slipstream. Is he going to go on the inside? No, he doesn't. It depends on weight. No, yes he does. And Madrina makes the move up into P7 past his teammate Southgate and lands him up into P7. So a good overtake there by Benjamin Madrina. As Glazebrook is actually going to hit this lap, in fact, as now Will Neller does finally make his final pit stop of the race. And he comes into the pits. Let's see how quick his stop will be.
Okay, no pressure.
He's obviously behind Jay McKenzie, and the gap is pretty big right now, so I don't imagine Neller is going to be able to close it up before the end, but we can see what his pace will be like in the Lotus. Will he be able to catch up? I don't know. The gap looks pretty big, and he'll have traffic as well. Is he going to come out behind Southgate? There's contact, and Neller's gone over! Neller's gone over! He's flipped over the car! And he's... flipped over the car, and Neller has flipped over and he's got back going. I don't honestly know what to say. Will Neller has flipped his car over and is still racing, colliding with Alex Southgate there coming out of the pits. Oh my word, how on earth, oh my goodness, and how Neller hasn't got damage from that, I don't know. He flipped over twice and it just flipped him back over. And amazingly, Will Neller, I mean, he actually wasn't that far off. Well, you know, he was a fair bit off Mackenzie, but any chance of getting the win now is going to go out the window. Oh my word. And I need to have a drink after that because my throat is dry from what just happened. Oh my goodness. You can see he just clips Southgate, goes over the inside curb, and then that just lifts the car up. And he goes over, flips over once, and I don't know how he didn't get any damage from that, and then he flipped over again and landed on his roof, and somehow Will Neller is still racing. That is quite incredible. That's probably the most insane thing I think I've ever seen in the OC so far this season, or ever, quite honestly. And wow. Honestly, I don't know what to say. I think we're going to see this finally in full time. So we're going to go on board with Southgate, who's coming from his point of view, and there was a contact. Actually, hang on, I don't think actually there was contact. Didn't look like it from that angle, to say the least, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. Conspiracy theories are probably going to be out in force after that one. Wow, and Rella Moitin now comes into the pit for his final slot, and so does Victory Parkazane in the Force India, coming for his final slot. So Moitin comes out, looks like in a comfortable point scoring position. There you go, got my words out for once. Moitin comes out in P7, and now there's a car out of the race, and who is that? And I can't quite tell because the blooming numbers thing, and it's Rifki Parkinson. Rifki Parkinson, with just 2 laps to go, who's running in P7, is going to retire from this race, and what looks like an engine failure with just 2 laps to go. How unfortunate that is. And yes, it is an engine problem. Oh, that is gutting for the Indonesian driver. He's set to get another good haul full of points. And oh my word, and Rifki Parkinson has to pull off the track right here, as you can see, and he will get absolutely zilch from this race. And there it is. He retires from the Grand Prix, and De Rosa, fortunately the wheel is not quite on the racing line, so the driver is going to avoid it. So Glazebrook actually is now going to get the final point spot for Sauber. And Lucas Levi is going to move up into P11 as Rifki Parkinson is now out of the race for India, so he's going to get no points. But anyway, here is your race leader, Jay McKenzie, who took the lead from Woolnella on lap 1 and has never looked back. Well, apart from obviously having to get past him and having to stop and show the clear pace that he had in that car. And it's going to be another great victory for McKenzie. Going to be his 2nd of the season as he comes down through the first sector. He's actually lapped most of the field. He's about to actually come up to De Rosa, who himself is going to finish a very impressive P4. And it's been a great race for De Rosa, but especially for Jamie McKenzie, who took the lead at the start from Woolnella, and after the pit stops had to overtake him again, but took him, and he absolutely zoomed away from Woolnella. He's 23 seconds, or nearly 24 seconds away from Nella, as McKenzie is right behind De Rosa, and hopefully he doesn't get in the way coming down the back straight, but De Rosa does get out of his way, and McKenzie is heading down the back straight towards the chicane for the final time. And after the 4 title rivals, Gal, Willows, Kuba and Ionescu have all taken themselves out, with Jay McKenzie taking this win, he's going to bring himself back into title contention. He comes around the final corner, and Jay McKenzie wins the German Grand Prix. Congratulations to him, as Glazebrook comes across the line. So it actually wasn't De Rosa that he lapped, it was in fact Glazebrook who finishes P10, as Levi is set to come home and just miss out on the points in P11. Roman Quad comes across in 12th place. David Greenwood is going to come across the line in 13th position, as behind him is Woolnella, who's going to take a very deserved 2nd place, so well done to him. He takes 2nd position on track, as here is a battle for P5 between Vedran Vedrina and Roland Moyton coming into the final chicane. Moyton is trying to make a move on Vedrina, coming down the back straight. Is he going to try and make a move into the chicane? Is he close enough? I don't think he is. Vedrina moves the inside to block him from trying to make one, and Vedrina, I think he's got it unless Moyton can launch it into the final corner. And Vedrina is coming round the final corner. I think he's just going to hold off Roland Moyton for P5, and Vedrina comes across the line. Moyton can't quite make his move into P5 there, and his teammate Alex Southgate said to take his first points on his return to McLaren. He's set to come home in P7. Not been the smoothest race for him at all, but a good one nonetheless, or at least good enough for points, as Volker comes across the line and takes 3rd. William Duncan will take 8th place, but there'll be words with him in the Toro Rosso paddock after this race. And Kirosima De Rosa set to take a very, very impressive P4, to say the least. Well done to him as he comes across the line to take his best finish of the season. Congratulations to him. Amar Khan set to take a couple of points in P9 for Force India. And there we go. The race is over. 1 hour and 31 minutes. That was a fairly long one, but it was still a pretty good race nonetheless. As here is your race results. So Jamie McKenzie won with Woolnella in 2nd, Florian Volker in 3rd, Kirosima De Rosa in 4th. I should let you know he also got a 5-second time penalty for that yellow flag pass, I should say, earlier on in the race. Vedrina was in 5th place, Roland Moyton in 6th, Alex Southgate 7th. William Duncan got a 10-second penalty for that incident involving his teammate Franco Gamba. 9th was Amar Khan, and 10th completing the points was Oliver Glazebrook, with the fastest lap being set by Woolnella with a 1:28.4. The rest of the order was Lucas Levi in 11th, Roman Quag 12th, David Green with 13th, Zachary Fitzwater 14th, and Rifki Parkinson in 15th, although who was still classified despite having that engine failure, with Rick Yan, George Roke, Franco Gamba, Robert Ionescu, Wade Scuba, Joseph Willers and Miklas Gal all retiring from this race, with obviously Ionescu, Kuba, Willers and Gal all involved in that crash on lap 7, which eliminated all those guys from the Grand Prix. So yeah, that is the results. Let's have a look at the table. So Waze Kuba and Miklos Gal, who are on the same amount of points, but with Jay McKenzie closing up on them on 99 points, with Robert Ionescu 4th with 93, still on the same points. Volkov 5th with 88. 6th is Joseph Williams with 80. 7th, Warnell moving above George Roque with 72. Drina is 9th with 47. The Holst 10th with 22. With De Rossa in 11th, Parkside 12th, Duncan 13th, Gamba 14th, Glazer 15th, Moitian 16th, Quag 17th, Greenwood 18th, Southgate 19th, with Carr 20th, Yan 21st, Fitzwater 22nd, and Levi in 23rd, with Fitzwater and Levi so far the only drivers yet to score any points this season. And here are the constructors standings, with Red Bull first with 195, with Ferrari second just 8 points behind them, with Mercedes 20 points behind them in third. Lotus just behind them 2 points in fourth, with a massive gap of 90 points to McLaren in fifth, Sauber in sixth, Taurus in seventh, Force India in eighth, Williams ninth, Mercy in 10th, with Caterham last in 11th position. Well, that has been the German Grand Prix. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to, as usual, vote for your driver of the day and give the race a rating out of 10. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we will see you for the next round. So, goodbye.